I'm Matt Leach. I'm Chief Exec of Local Trust. We're the organisation that helps support big local areas across the country. And I guess I was welcomed into the big local family by Dave. It was one of the first big local areas I visited when I started the Local Trust back in March 2017, was the Cars. And Dave welcomed me warmly. He told me the story of his introduction to big local. I think he was one of the first people in the Cars area to know that the money was coming into the community, and he told me about how he had to keep it a secret. He wasn't allowed to tell anybody else. He was bursting to tell them about the money that was coming, but had to keep it secret until the right time. But I think at that time he didn't realise quite how much of the next 10 years of his life he was going to commit to making a difference to his local community, and he achieved a lot that he can be proud of. But he wasn't just part of the community in the Cars. He was part of the wider big local family. He was one of these people you always saw at big local events, who always contributed, always had people clustered around him because he had a compelling personality, a warm sense of humour. He was a great part of big local. We missed him hugely when he was forced to step back. But I think the whole Cars community can look proudly at what he achieved, both within your local community, but also as part of that much wider big local family.
So when I was appointed as the rep for the Cars big local, I didn't know the Smithswood area, let alone the Cars, and I had this grand plan that to get the programme started, I was going to come to the Cars and I was going to get all the community organisers, all the local organisations, all the local groups. I was going to get them all together in a big hall, and I'd get everyone excited about big local. Everyone would sign up and get it going. But first of all, I had to find out who these organisations were. So I started asking. So I went to Coldbridge Trust and I said, give me the list of all the organisations and people you work with on the Cars. And they said, you need to talk to Dave. And then I went to the police and I said, like, who are all the organisers and organisations and groups you work with on the Cars? They said, you need to talk to Dave. And then I went to the council, asked the same question, got the same answer. It was all about Dave. And so eventually I got Dave's number and I rang him and went to meet him and met this humble little Welsh guy who was clearly at the centre of everything that was going on in the Cars. He was passionately fighting to get more for the Cars. And bless him, because it was a big ask to step up to be the chair of the partnership, to get it from absolutely nothing to up and running to where it is now. But Dave didn't hesitate, and I think that kind of sums up Dave. He was really passionate about the Cars, wanted to do his best for the Cars, and so bless him and I'll miss him.
Hello, I'm Chris Iddle, Secretary of Safe and Sound in Area 13, local community group that was formed in 2004. Dave Dixon was our chair for 15 years. Thanks to his many contacts, we managed to get a number of speakers for the group that we wouldn't have been able to get any other way. It could be maddening, but I had great respect for Dave. The community don't know how much they owe Dave. In 2012, we unexpectedly were jointly awarded the Involvement in the Community Award from Solihull Council. We weren't even aware we'd been nominated, and Dave was very, very pleased, as was I, to receive that award, because we don't do these things for the recognition that we're going to get. He cared about the community, he worked hard for the community, and he needs to be remembered by all of us.
Hi, it's Judy, Project Manager at Cars Areas Together. Just a few comments really, in participation of the video that the team are putting together in respect of our Dave, who passed away now nearly 12 months ago. I actually only knew Dave for a couple of years, from when I first came to work with the gang at Cars Area Together. And even during that time I didn't see a huge amount of him, because he'd already started to have poorly times. But I do have a lovely memory that I wanted to share, and that really was the last Christmas just before Dave passed away, which was the Christmas before last, and before this awful pandemic, which wouldn't have suited Dave. And that was a really wet night when we decided to have a Christmas get-together down at Auckland Hall. And I arranged to go and collect Dave from outside his house. And Julie did that, and he enjoyed the evening, enjoyed having a chat and a bite to eat. And when it came to going home time, I scooped him up, popped him back in the car and took him back up to the top of the estate. It was pouring. And I got as near as I could to the back of his house. And as he was going, I said to him, "Dave, you know that I'll look after this project, don't you? And we'll do well." And he turned to me and said, "Yeah, I know." And that's a great memory for me, because I think he knew that Cars Areas Together was well established and was in good hands with our board and our residents and our partners and our community. He was so intrinsic to the beginning of Cars Areas Together that he would have known that we would pursue the aims and objectives of a community that he so cared about. So can't wait to hear other people's memories, but that's just from me. Thank you.
Hi guys, Craig Gill here from Bowden City Football Club's Community Trust. Thanks Luke for asking me to do a video with regards to memories of Dave. Dave was a fantastic man who had loads and loads of time for everybody. I had the pleasure of inviting him to St Andrews to watch his beloved Swansea City beat Birmingham City. Sat in the director's box, he was over the moon, absolutely loved the day with us. And those are memories that will obviously live with me for a long time, and also those of the staff at the Community Trust. Cheers guys.
My memories of Dave go back to 8 years ago, coming to the partnership meeting, and Dave was very keen to ask who put his name, number on over 1,000 t-shirts that were going out to members of the Cars area, and obviously that was me. He gave me a cheeky smile, said something quite funny to me. And I remember that was my first ever meeting with Dave, and I thought, you know, he's definitely a community guy. I think my time with Dave and working with Dave is, you know, just made me realise how much he really loved community. He was involved in so many things, but he loved the community. He loved to feel like he was trying to make a difference, and I respect that so much, that, you know, even at the age he was still giving up his time, still going to things, and he was just a very passionate about Wales, Swansea City Football Club, and obviously Wales rugby team and football team. I think the whole time I was working there, I think Arsenal only beat Swansea once. Swansea seemed to beat Arsenal every time they played since I met Dave. But just a wonderful guy, and I learnt a lot from him, and it was a pleasure to be around him. Really, really lovely guy.
So when I think back to my time working with Dave, one of the memories that sticks out in my mind is when we presented to the Indonesian government. A group of officials had come over from Indonesia, and this was like a really big deal in Solihull, because it's one of the fastest growing economies of the world, and you know, this is who they want to be selling Land Rovers to for the next 50 years. So yeah, I was quite nervous, and I got there early, and just Dave strolled in, dressed like he was about to play poker against James Bond, just oozing with confidence, and I'd written him a speech. What a laugh. That went in the bin quicker than an empty bag of crisps. There was no way I was going to tie him down to the words that I wanted him to say. I remember at one point he was telling them about car boot sales, So if you're ever in Jakarta and you see a car boot sale, that's Dave, that is. That's his handiwork. Anyway, they got a rousing reception at the end. Dave was presented with a gift, I think, by one of the officials. And we went to the Masons Arms. There was a group of us from the Cars Big Local, and it was just such a buzz. It's one of my best days ever in my career. Just the mood in the room, and you could see the sort of the glow on Dave's face and the twinkle, that twinkle that he had in his eye. A wonderful memory, a great man, and someone who I miss loads. God bless you, Dave.
I've been asked to say a little bit about Dave Dixon. He was an old school type of chap and was very respected in our community. He worked at Keeper's Lodge in Chelmsley Wood as a teacher, teaching people IT when the internet was very new. He knew many members of the community, of the Cars area. He was chair of Cars Area Together and Safe and Sound. He worked with Solihull Community Housing for many, many years. These roles were all voluntary, and he did care about people in the Cars area. He gave a great deal of his time to the Cars Area Together and to other projects. We will not forget you, Dave Dixon.
I have fond memories of Dave from the Cars Summer Community Day, where he was super generous with his time and spent a good deal of time talking to me about a whole range of things. But one of the things that we covered off in some detail was the current position and the future prospects of a number of the Welsh national sports teams, which was a great conversation. He was also really kind with his comments and his observations about those people who'd come together and worked so hard to put on a great event and a great day for the local residents. He continues to be remembered fondly.
I was really lucky. I knew Dave for 4.5 years as the community development worker with Cars Area Together, and through that time, I really got to know him. He was very passionate about the area and the work that he did, and I think that's why he got involved with Cars Area Together in the first place, and his passion was always carried through. He helped to organise the very first fun day in the area along with the car boots, and was always at every partnership meeting, and he just had a real passion, and that is something that I'll always be grateful for. I have quite a few memories of Dave, really. We got to go to some big local connects together, and I got to sit there and listen to many stories he was telling, and lots of other big locals, and Dave was one for always telling a good story, and one that's a bit out there, but me, Dave and the office printer probably had quite a strong relationship, really, in the fact we probably had a mutual hatred for the printer and the fact it never ever wanted to do what Dave wanted it to do. So very lucky that that printer did not get thrown out of a window or banged and smashed up, but to me it's something that was always me and Dave trying to figure out how this printer was and going, why won't it work? So yeah, when I get to go back into the office, I will look at that printer, it will make me smile, make me think of Dave, and that's just a memory that I will continue to treasure. So can't believe it's a year since we said goodbye to Dave, and we lined the streets and waved him off and gave him a round of applause for all the amazing work he did for us. And I just hope that he approves of the work that we're going to continue doing, and that Dave, you really are sadly missed.
Dave was a good man, and he was a good bloke. He was a good bloke to all the Cars area. He was a good man to all the people to the Cars area. He was a good person to all the people to the fun day and the Christmas fair and all the people around us. He was a good people person.
Yeah, my memory of Dave I want to share is one time we were finishing up at the car boot and I went to lock the gates, and when I got back, Dave was sitting in his car on his own when everyone else had left, and he asked me to sit in the car with him, and we ended up sitting in that car for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and he was just reflecting on me, on his life and doing community work, and he asked me the question, have I made any difference, Rick? And I thought that was quite a touching moment, especially late on in his life, and I had to convince him that, Dave, you've done so much for the community that you live in, you've done so much for our community, and you've been a servant all your life, and it's strange, we can't always see the effect we have, because the ramifications of community work go on even when we're not there, so we don't always get to see the outcomes of the foundations we lay. But it was just interesting that this person who's so abrasive and confident and can be that way, to see him vulnerable and asking me those questions in his car was a touching moment, and it's the one I'll remember of Dave. Thank you.
My name's Paul, Chairman of Safe and Sound. My recollection of Dave Dixon goes back a long way through Safe and Sound, Cars Area Together, Solihull Community Housing, and a number of other things. But the best part I can remember with Dave is quite considerable. It was on a fun day on the field. He knew I was petrified of snakes, and he said to me, he says, come on, go and try it, put one around your neck, and you can't be scared then. It took me a lot of confidence to do it, but I did. Put that snake around my neck, but I didn't like it, but I did it. But thanks to Dave, he brought that out, my fear of snakes, slightly over, so I don't feel so much frightened about snakes as I used to. It's like spiders. But Dave, thanks for everything you taught me, which I've learned from you over the number of years, through Safe and Sound, the Cars to Big Local, now the Cars Area Together, and at our meetings with Solihull Community Housing. I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for that, and you'll never be forgotten, not by me or by anybody. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, I first met Dave when we both joined the Bristol Chairs group. I'd seen him at various events, but I'd never actually met him, and we became quite good friends, and the deeper the friendship got, the more he drove me crazy. He would insist on booking the tickets for our travel, and I never knew where he was on the station. He drove me absolutely crazy, and then we all met him again. My partnership met him at Cars, at the Connects last year, and basically the only thing I can say is that Dave was a shining light and a lovely, lovely friend. Can't say no more. That's lovely.
Thank you, Anne. Love to Dave and Dave's family and everybody at Cars. We love you.